Krishna, everyone.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सह गणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे बृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभयेव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री राधा गिरिधारी भगवान की जय। 8.9 कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम्
कविं पुराणमनुशासितारम्
अनुरणीयां सम् अनुस्मरेद्यः
अनुरणीयांसमनुस्मरेत्यः
सर्वस्य धातारम् अचिन्त्य रूपम्
सर्वस्य दातारमचिन्त्यरूपम्
आदित्यवर्णं तमसः परस्तात्
आदित्यवर्णं
Kavim, the one who knows everything. Puranam, the oldest. Anushasataram, the controller. Anu, then the atom. Aniyamsam, smaller. Anusmaret, always thinks of. Yaha, one who. Sarvasya, of everything. Dhataram, the maintainer. Achintya, inconceivable. Rupam, whose form. Aditya Varnam, luminous like the sun. Tamasaha, to darkness. Parasat, transcendental. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. 8.10 प्रयाणकाले मनसाचलेन
प्रयाणकाले मनसा चलेन
भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन चैव
भक्त्या युक्तो योगबलेन
भ्रूर्मध्ये प्राणमाविश्य सम्यक्
भ्रुवोर्मध्ये प्राणमावेश्य सम्यक्
ततं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्
ततं परं पुरुषमुपैति दिव्यम्
प्रयाणकाले, at the time of death, manasa, by the mind, achalena, without its being diverted, bhaktya, in full devotion, yuktaha, engaged, yoga balena, by the power of mystic yoga, cha, also, eva, certainly, bhuvoho, the two eyebrows, madhye, between, pranam, the life air, avishya, establishing, samyak, completely, tam, that, param, transcendental, purusham, personality of Godhead, Upaiti, achieves Divyam in the spiritual kingdom. One who, at the time of death, fixes his life air between the eyebrows and by the strength of yoga with an undeviating mind engages himself in remembering the Supreme Lord in full devotion will certainly attain to the supreme will certainly attain to the supreme personality of Godhead. 8.11 Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti
यदक्षरं वेदवितो वदन्ति
विशन्ति यतयो वीतरागाः
विशन्ति यतयो वीतरागाः
यद् यद् इच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति
यदिच्छन्तो ब्रह्मचर्यं चरन्ति
तत्ते पदं सङ्ग्रहेण प्रवक्षे
तत्ते पदं सङ्ग्रहेण प्रवक्षे
Yet that which Aksharam, syllable Om, Veda Vidaha, the persons conversant with the Vedas, Vadanti, say, Vishanti, enter, yet in which, Yata Yaha, great sages, Vitaragaha, in the renounced order of life, yet that which, Icchantaha, desiring, Brahmacharyam, celibacy, Charanti, practice, Tat, that, Te, onto you, Padam, situation, Sangrahena, in summary, Pravakshe, I shall explain. Persons who are learned in the Vedas, who utter Omkara, and who are great sages in the renounced order, enter into Brahman. Desiring such perfection, one practices celibacy. I shall now briefly explain to you this process by which one may attain salvation. Thank you. Now we'll go through the main points in each of the verses. So back to 8.9. So in this verse, the process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal. He is a person. One cannot meditate on something impersonal. This is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is stated in this verse. At first of all, the Lord is a Purusha, a person. For example, we can think of Rama or Krishna. And whether one thinks of Rama or Krishna, what he is like is also is described in the verse. The Lord is Kavi. That is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is also the supreme controller of the universe. He is the maintainer and instructor. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair, but the Lord is inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore, he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the supreme, as a super soul. Although so small, he is still all pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all the planetary systems are sustained. The word achintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. So when so God's energy is beyond our conception, so beyond our thinking, and therefore it is called inconceivable. He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. Achintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which one with our argument or logic or philosophical speculation cannot touch, that which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons, avoiding useless argument and speculation, should accept what is written in the scriptures in the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles that they set down. This is the main point from this verse that Prabhupada outlines. In the next one, so that's 10, so in this verse reminded me of, so 8.9 very much reminded me of aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvita. Because he, again, it says that everything emanates from him. He's the controller, he's the maintainer, he's the sustainer of everything. So I just remembered this verse. It came to my mind when I was learning 8.9. 8.10, the main thing in this verse is that this verse, it is clearly stated that at the time of death, the mind must be fixed in devotion to the supreme, to Krishna, for whose practice in yoga it is recommended that they raise their life force between the eyebrows. The practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, involving meditation on the six chakras, is mentioned in this verse. It's suggested here. A pure devotee does not practice such yoga, but because he's always engaged in Krishna consciousness, at the time of death, he can remember Krishna by Krishna's grace. The, the particular use of the word yoga balena is significant in this verse because without the practice of yoga, whether that is Satchakra yoga or Bhakti yoga, one cannot come to the this transcendental stage of being at the time of death. One cannot suddenly remember Krishna at the time of death. One must have practiced some yoga system, especially the system of Bhakti Yoga, which Prabhupada stresses that the practice of Bhakti Yoga is recommended. Since one's mind at the time of death is very disturbed, one should practice through one's life so that they can, at the time of death, remember Krishna. And this when I was reading this verse, it kind of reminded me of Antakale Chamami Vesmaran Mukta Kalevaram Yaha Prayasi Samadbhavam Yati Nasti Atra Samshayah. So this, when I was reading it, both mom and I thought of this verse. So 8.11. The main points in this one and in this verse is that Lord Krishna has recommended to Arjuna that the practice of Sat Chakra Yoga, in which one places the life air between the eyebrows. Taking it for granted that Arjuna might not know how to practice this yoga, the Lord explains the process in the following verses. So the Lord says that in this verse, the Lord says that Brahman, although one without a second, has various manifestation and features. Especially for the impersonalists, the Omkara, the syllable Om, is identical to Brahman. Krishna here explains explains the impersonal Brahman, onto which the renounced order of sages enter. In the Vedic system of knowledge, students from the very beginning are taught to say Om and taught to say Om and learn the impersonal form Brahman by living with the spiritual master in complete celibacy. In this way, they realize two of Brahman's features. The practice is very essential for the student's advancement in spiritual life, but at the moment, such brahmachari life is not possible unless one. Prabhupada notes it here that unless one practices celibacy, advancement in spiritual life is very difficult. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has announced, according to the spiritual injunctions for this age of Kali, that in this age, no process of realizing the Supreme is possible without chanting the holy names of Krishna. So, the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So these were the main points that I took from the three verses. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very. Thank you for that summary, Vidushi. Does anybody have anything to add or any questions for Vidushi? Okay, so Vidushi's nicely summarized everything. Just a few ways of looking at it from a slightly different angle as well. So in 8.8, Krishna says Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena Chetasa Na Anyagamina, which means the mind must not go anywhere else. So the practice should be such, Abhyasa, the practice should be such that one's concentration is always attached on the Supreme Lord, Paramam Purusham Divyam, on that Parama Purusha, the Divya Parama Purusha, the transcendental Supreme Person. So one needs to practice that. And the mind must not deviate away from him. So obviously the question arises, how can one do that? So you're saying that supreme transcendental person, who is that person? What is his description? So here the first time actually Krishna is describing that person. He says, Kavim Puranam Anushasitaram Anoraniyamsam Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varanam Tamasa Parastat. He gives 7 qualities, 8 qualities. What is the first one? Kavim. Kavim means one who knows everything. In fact, Kavi is also the name of Lord Vishnu in the Sahasranamam. How does it go? Sarvaga Sarva Vidbhanur Vishwakseno Janardana Vedo Veda Vidavyango Vedo Veda Vidavyango Vedango Veda Vid Kavihi. So Kavi is one of his names. And Kavi means one who knows everything. He knows all the knowledge that there is in the form of the Vedas. Now that Krishna himself says in the 15th chapter that I'm the one who wrote the Vedas, I'm the one who wrote the Vedanta, I'm the one that is to be understood by all of it. So not only does he know all the knowledge, he also is aware of every entity's past, present, and future in all that entity's lifetimes. And therefore, he is omniscient. He is truly omniscient. And that is the meaning of Kavi. Okay. Now, Kavi means one who's omniscient. But then there are other sages like the 4 Kumars or Narada Rishi who are also omniscient. They also know the past, present, and future. So how is he different? Oh, he is Purana. Purana means he's very, very old. He's ancient. He is the oldest personality, Prabhupada says, because he's the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. Like Vidushi said, Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate. So he's known as Purana. Oh, that means he must be a very old person, eh? Bearded, maybe no teeth, wears glasses. Says, no. He is the oldest, but he is Anushashitaram. He may be the oldest, but he is the supreme controller of everything, including time. So time does not affect him. So he may have existed from, we think in terms of beginning, but he's beginningless. He's existed always. There is no time when the Lord did not exist. And there is no time that anything else was able to control him. He has always been the controller. Now, another meaning of Anushasitaram also means teacher. He is the supreme teacher. When he comes in the form of Lord Rama, Lord Krishna himself, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Rama through his actions, Kapil Dev through his teachings. In all his avatars, he comes and he teaches. And so he's called Anushasitaram. Oh, so he is Anushasitaram. Then he must be very, very big. Because he's very difficult to know. You know, he must be massive. Because he knows so much. I mean, if I had to have that much knowledge in this brain, I'd probably require a brain about 500 kilometers, you know, long, high, and wide. But he is Anor Aniyasam. He's smaller than the atom. He's smaller than the atom. Although he's so merciful, he appears in a human form and he teaches us everything. He is tinier than the atom. Oh, which means he's like the jiva. The jiva is also very tiny. No, 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 no. He is not like the jiva at all. Because he is sarvasya dhataram. He, like Prabhupada says here, he, as the supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the super soul. So he's the dhataram. He's small, but he's still all pervading and is maintaining everything. By him, all these planetary systems are sustained. So he is so all pervading. So here, basically, we're talking in terms of his Brahman feature, in terms of his Paramatma feature. So in terms of the Brahman feature, he's all pervading everywhere. Paramatma feature, he's in every single atom. And as Bhagavan himself. So everything is contained within him. Sarvasya dhataram. Dhataram also means container. He's the container for everything. And therefore, he is achintya Rupam. And that is why, although he may look like a human being, his form is very, very difficult to comprehend. We learned yesterday in the Brahma Samhita, Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti. Can we even imagine that? Can we even imagine that this nail of mine is equal to all of me? Unbelievable. Achintya. And all this, therefore, brings out the Achintya Bheda Veda Tattva. Everything about the Lord is Achintya. He's tiny, but he's not the Jiva. But he's still the producer of the Jivas. But at the same time, the Jivas were never really produced at any particular time. They always existed. Everything is contrary to each other. And that is why it's called Bheda Abheda. There is difference and similarity at the same time. So he is Anushasitaram and Achintya Rupam. His form is so beautiful. One can barely imagine a form like that. Which is why we learned yesterday that everything is being called, oh, lotus this, lotus that, because we can only understand a lotus. Oh, lotus is beautiful. Achintya Rupam, he has an inconceivable form. He appears as if he's a medium-sized human being. but there is nothing medium about him. He is completely independent of everything, everyone. He doesn't depend on anything for his sustenance, for his maintenance. And then what he is? Aditya Varnam. His form is like that of the sun. It's brilliant. It reveals everything. So the moment we start to approach the Lord, all the Maya Javanika goes away. The curtain of Maya is lifted. Why? Because Jaha Krishna taha nahi Maya adhikar. Where Krishna is there, there is no adhikar of Maya. Maya cannot exist. Darkness cannot exist where Krishna is. So he is Aditya Varnam. And he is Tamasaha Parastat. Tamasaha Para. Beyond Tamas. So obviously he's full of light. So he's beyond darkness. But this also means he's beyond the three modes of material nature. So although he holds the three modes, they are under his control. At no time is it possible that the modes can control him. For a jiva, it is very possible. We may do all kinds of tapasya and control the modes, control our anger, control everything. Pacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, jihva vegam, udara upastha vegam, we can control everything. We can actually, which is why it's said there that one needs to control. So assume one does control everything. There is always a chance that you will fall again. Which happened to the biggest of yogis, Vishwamitra Muni. Which happened to the biggest of Raja Rishis, Bharat Maharaj. So at any point, the jiva is fallible, which is why in the 15th chapter, Krishna says, Akshara Dvavimau Purushau Loke Kshara Evacha. He says, in this loka, in this creation, there are two kinds of people, Kshara and Akshara. Kshara, Sarvani Bhutani. All the living entities are Kshara, they will fall. Akshara is only me. So his form is Achintya and it is Tamasa Parastat. Tamasaha Para. Okay. So now we have been given some hooks by which to remember him. So then the question arises, oh, when should he be remembered? And what is the process for this? So Krishna says, Prayana Kale. Remember him at the time of death. Manasa Achalena. And remember him in your mind. That mind is Achala, it doesn't move. And Bhaktya, with Bhakti. Yuktaha, connected with the Lord. Oh, Krishna, are you asking me to do all this? How can I do all this? My mind keeps wandering. I mean, I'm talking to you here and my mind is wandering somewhere. How can I do this? He says, Yoga Balena. For this, you need to practice yoga. Okay, so what kind of yoga do you want me to do? He says, Bhur Madhye Pranam Aveshya Samyak. Samyak Aveshya. Tam Purusham Upaiti. Focus between your eyebrows. This is called the Agnya Chakra. This is called the Agnya Chakra or the third eye. It is here that you must have heard of this, opening the third eye. Huh? or awakening the third eye. Basically, what that means is you now are able to, so a yogi who does chakra meditation. So how many chakras are there? Does anybody know? Seven. Seven chakras. Seven chakras. So there are seven chakras. The lowest is your Mooladhara chakra. So you have the Mooladhara, which is right at the bottom, then Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Ajna, and Sahasrara. So these seven chakras, they are not inside the body. They form the pranic system. So they are not, as when I say they are not inside the body, they are not physical manifestations in the body. These are energy centers. I mean, the best way to understand them is as energy centers. And each of them has a particular bija mantra. Each of them has a particular symbol. So, for instance, the Vishuddha chakra, which is the throat chakra, that the bija mantra for that is hum. The bija mantra for this is om. So, what the Lord is actually saying is practice this yoga where you bring it here, where you bring your focus here at all times. Keep bringing your prana, your focus here. Keep bringing it here. And remember the Lord. So this is one way of doing it. The other way, like Prabhupada says, is Bhakti Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, you are not really consciously sitting down and focusing on the Lord, except when you're actually sitting and chanting. But at all points in time, you're focused on the Lord without being focused on the Lord, if you know what I mean. Everything is being done for the Lord. The motive behind every action is to please the Lord. Which doesn't mean that when I am very concentratedly, maybe trying to thread a needle, I'm sitting and thinking, Krishna, the thread is never going to go into the needle. So there are going to be times when I'm not going to be focused. Suppose I'm sitting and calculating, okay? I'm sitting and adding a whole list of numbers. In the middle, I can't go Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, unless, of course, I'm a supercomputer. There might be some people, but I can't do that. So what do? Yoga balena. What do? We attach the task to Krishna. We say, Krishna, I'm doing it for you, okay? So even if I don't consciously think of you at this point in time, know that I'm doing it for you and therefore I'm thinking of you. So there are two ways. One is the yoga way, which is by practicing the chakra yoga. The other is by doing everything with love for the Lord. So he says, Bruvor Madhye Pranan Aveshya Samyak. Samyak Rite Aveshya. They have to be perfectly brought and kept here, all your energies. And then you go think of him, and that way you will definitely reach him. So, what are we actually doing with this? With this, what we are doing is we are trying to control our minds. Anytime we do any kind of meditation, what we are doing is controlling our mind. So there are various forms of meditation. Best is to take our mantra and chant it while focused over here. And you'll find that that kind of chanting is really very, very powerful. Then Krishna goes on to say, I'm telling you all this because your mind is going to keep running, yeah? So the question says, okay, so just because I put my life air there, I can see the Lord, huh? Krishna says, Yadaksharam Veda Vido Vadanti, Vishanti Yad Yattayaha Vitaragaha. Yad Icchantaha Brahmacharyam Charanti Tatte Padam Samgrahena Pravakshye. Okay, I will explain this process to you. I will tell you exactly what you need to do. Pravakshye, I shall tell you. I will tell you in future. What will I tell you? That inexhaustible Veda Vidaha. Yad, that Aksharam. Aksharam means what? He does not get depleted in any way. But more importantly, the meaning of the word Aksharam is Om. So he says, Veda Vidaha, those who know the Vedas, they know, they always say Om. Yad Aksharam Veda Vidaha Vadanti. These people who know the Vedas, they always speak the word Om. And what do? This is done by also by sannyasis, yatayaha. The yatayaha, great sages, sannyasis. What do the sannyasis do? Vitaragaha. They give up all attachment. They give up all forms of ignorance. Then there are the brahmacharis. What do? They also practice celibacy, brahmacharya. Why? Because they also are icchantaha. They have ichha. They have the desire to do what? Tat padam sangrahena. In order to attain or completely grasp that padam, that position, or that abode. Padam means what? Paramapadam, we say, na? Paramapadam means position, the supreme position, or the supreme abode of the Lord. Vaikuntha is called Paramapadam. So, which means what? Persons who are very well versed in the Vedas, who are learned, Veda Vidaha, te kim vadanti, what do they say? Te aksharam vadanti. They repeat Om. So while they are focused here, they keep saying Om and focus here. And what do they do after doing that? They enter into the Brahman, Vishanti. They enter into that Paramapadam. Now, one who desires that, Krishna says, one has to practice celibacy. So, who enters already Vishanti? Those are the Vedavidaha and the Yatayaha, who are Vitaragaha. What does that mean? Who enters that Paramapadam? They are those people who know the Vedas, who are always chanting Om. These are the people who are sannyasis, who have given up all ignorance. For the rest, there is brahmacharyam to be practiced. And then they can all go to that supreme position. When you focus on the Ajna Chakra, and once your third eye can open, you basically get connected to the Supreme Brahman. It is a form of connecting to the Supreme Brahman. So people whose third eye is opened can actually see the past and the future. Their perceptions are very sharp. They are basically connected to the universe. And this is what Krishna says in the 18th chapter, na? Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. So this is the Brahma bhuta prasannatma. They, the ones who have entered Vishanti, those who have entered, they are the Brahma bhuta prasanna atmas. They are the ones who know the Brahman, they know the Supreme Brahman. And what is the symptom of such a person? Prasanna atma, always happy. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati, never cries for anything, never desires anything. Na shochati na kangshati. And samaha sarveshu bhuteshu, every living entity is treated equally. Does not mean the woke equality that we're talking about nowadays, huh? Not that. Equally means you treat a child like a child. You treat everyone according to their status. Your action towards the other person is appropriate to their status, appropriate to what they require. Like Krishna in the Bhagavatam, it is said, when he would meet the Pandavas, how would he meet the Pandavas? When he met Yudhishthira, he'd fall at his feet. He met Bhima, he'd fall at his feet. Arjuna, he would hug. Nakula and Sahadev, he'd bless them. This is how he treated people. Did anyone have a problem with that? No. Or if Krishna went and said, Namaskar, 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 Namaskar to everybody, would that have been appropriate even? No. Then where is the relationship? There is no question of relationship. Relationship is lost. When we treat every person according to our relationship with them and according to their stature, their status, and what they are supposed to be treated as, then we are actually equal to everybody. Samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param tatte padam, that padam, mad bhaktim labhate param. They attain my bhakti, they attain that supreme position. Then the purport, Prabhupada says, for the impersonalists, the syllable Om is identical with Brahman. Krishna here explains the impersonal Brahman in which the renounced order of sages enter. And he also goes on to say how brahmacharya is very important in order to realize Brahman. And for us, all this process is made very simple, simply by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, with complete focus and complete love. Easily said than done. So, any questions or comments? Okay, then. So we'll pause here for today. Next week was Parthasarathi Prabhu's class, right? Prabhuji, next Sunday we can't have the class because next Saturday and Sunday there is the Diwali Mela happening at Ayodhya Center.
Okay.
And on Sunday we are actually helping out at the stalls, so we won't be available.
Next.
Yeah. So yours is postponed, but we'll meet on Saturday definitely.
Okay. Next Saturday.
Yeah, next Saturday we'll meet.
So next Saturday is Brahmacharya Summit.
Brahma Samhita.
Okay.
Okay then. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Hare Krishna.
much. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna everyone. Thank you.